Hi, besties. Okay, we were speaking last week about how this Daily Mail reporter showed up and he filed a brand new declaration, and he did it so you know he needed to clear the record. And then immediately the same day Blake filed a response and was like, see, judge. See, this is why we need the documents that they won't produce.
Well, now,
Leslie Sloan is filing a response as well, and she's claiming this is proof that they did this in bad faith, and I want my attorney's fees, even though she already did a proper motion for attorney's fees months ago that judge hasn't ruled on. And the reason why they were able to file a brand new declaration or a new motion for this is a rule that allows someone, if they have new evidence, bring a separate motion for attorney's fee or a new one if new evidence is revealed.
and
So really the truth here is that James obviously coordinated with them with the hopes that they would hand over documents and that also he would help Leslie get attorney's fees.
why?
I don't.
No.
It's redonulous. And it's crazy, considering the fact that he sent Wayfair a ton of documents back in June, basically calling Leslie a liar and telling them that Leslie ran a smear campaign for Blake. Before Jed Wallace ever even was hired, Leslie was running a smear campaign planting stories with him. He acknowledged it in a document. Therefore, Leslie and her legal representatives submitted a letter as if they possess undeniable evidence, asserting that the court should grant them attorney's fees and costs in accordance with anti-SLAPP laws and the court's inherent powers. They claim that the Wayfair parties lodged knowingly false accusations against them solely to provoke public outrage and silence Miss
Sloan.
Indeed, the only individuals who are being silenced in this context are Wayfair and all those in the public who voice opposition to Blake Lively. That is my perspective. The closest they came to presenting a credible defamation claim against Sloan was their assertion that Miss Sloan informed James Vizuka, a reporter for the Daily Mail, that Blake had been sexually assaulted. Their only evidence for this claim was a text message from Vizuka stating that she is now claiming that Blake was sexually assaulted, which was at best ambiguous. On June 24, 2025, a declaration by Vizuka clarified that she never claimed that she was sexually harassed or sexually assaulted by Justin Baldoni or any other individual. He disclosed that the Wayfair parties did not conduct an investigation or consult him regarding the meaning of his statement. However, with his new declaration, he reveals a new text conversation that indicates that on December 25th, he explicitly informed Melissa Nathan that he never stated anything about sexual assault. This is not a new piece of evidence. This exhibit was actually included in the complaint.
It appears that
Vizuka made the statement after sending the ambiguous text message referenced in paragraph 193 of the amended complaint, and certainly before they initiated their claims against Sloan, notwithstanding their clear explanation. 3 weeks later, the Wayfair party initiated legal action against Miss Sloan based on knowingly false claims that she accused Baloney of sexual assault. They ignored the truth, which could not be more audacious. Thus, the Wayfair parties this is Leslie. Alright, so Leslie is attempting to assert that the sole reason she was sued was due to paragraph 193, which is inaccurate. It was merely one paragraph stemming from a broader discussion. Additionally, it was alleged that she was disseminating negative narratives to the Daily Mail and other media outlets regarding him and Wayfair. Therefore, it was not solely about sexual assault. It was that she was acting on behalf of Blake and orchestrating a smear campaign against him by planting stories and instigating a smear campaign against him. I believe this is akin to a red herring. It emphasizes a minor aspect of the lawsuit. and attempts to portray it as the crucial evidence when, in reality, the text from James was not the pivotal evidence. In fact, it was part of a larger conspiracy involving the New York Times. Because why would Blake have the opportunity to communicate with the New York Times? Who would be the individual responsible for arranging communication between the New York Times and Blake, her publicist? That is the role of a publicist, to secure significant press coverage with high-impact SEO and reputable organizations. Thus, if Blake was to collaborate with the New York Times, Leslie would have been the one facilitating that. Currently, when the judge dismissed the case against Leslie, it was not due to James's misstatement. Essentially, the judge conveyed that, regardless of James's comments, and even if Leslie communicated that to him, if she had faith in her client and believed that her client had conveyed this to her, then she genuinely believed it to be the truth. They argued that since Baldoni is a public figure, it was necessary to demonstrate malice, which they failed to establish, clarify, and verify regarding Sloane's intent to know it was false, and that she acted with reckless disregard for the truth. The issue was not that they misspoke, with James referring to assault instead of harassment, but rather that one, if she believed Blake, and two, even if she did make that statement, they needed to prove malice, which their amended complaint did not accomplish according to the judge. This is where the dismissal became problematic, because had they proceeded with discovery, they might have been able to substantiate malice. However, their complaint did not adequately articulate malice to the judge or did not plead it sufficiently, resulting in its dismissal for failure to state a claim and litigation privilege, among other reasons. Consequently, Leslie is now asserting that the reason for the court's dismissal of the case was based on that. Furthermore, she claims that Wayfair intentionally concealed the date of this text message and obscured the timeline, compelling Miss Sloane to endure months of financially and emotionally devastating litigation, all while being aware that their primary allegation against her was false. They included an undated version of the text in their now-dismissed California action against the New York Times. 2 days later, they filed an amendment to that complaint, removing that specific text message. The parties also declined to provide a complete dated version of this text chain during discovery. However, they were actually dismissed before discovery was completed, so it is not surprising that they had not produced that yet. However, she has asserted that this constitutes evidence of bad faith, claiming that they were aware she did not make these statements. They recognized that she did not engage in this behavior. This serves as proof. Furthermore, the only means by which she can secure payment for her fees is by demonstrating and persuading a judge that the lawsuit was initiated in bad faith. The judge did not characterize the case as such when he dismissed it. He did not label it as a frivolous action or a baseless complaint made in bad faith. He merely clarified that they would have needed to establish malice, which they were unable to do based on the evidence he reviewed. It is possible that Leslie did not make any comments regarding sexual assault. I cannot say for certain. Nevertheless, this action is being taken because she seeks to recover her attorney's fees. Clearly, she collaborated with James behind the scenes, persuading him to sign this absurd declaration that clarifies and blames Friedman, further tarnishing his reputation, and asserts that this was all conducted in bad faith so that Leslie can obtain the millions of dollars in attorney's fees she desires, despite the fact that this case has already been dismissed and she has previously filed a motion for attorney's fees. This indicates to me that Leslie and her legal team lack confidence in the submissions they have already made to the court. If you are assured in your motion and possess all the evidence you claim supports the assertion of bad faith, why would you require the same email or text that was already included in the complaint? It is important to note that none of this information is new. There is nothing novel here. Therefore, this is merely another tactic for her to remind the judge that she has a motion pending that has yet to be ruled upon. The issue, however, is that this will provide an opportunity for the Wayfair parties to respond, and in their response, they can present their own evidence and share the documents they received from Mr. Bazooka, as well as the information that Mr. Bazooka communicated to them, and I believe this situation will not be advantageous for her. Allow me to explain why. As I mentioned last week, Mr. Vizuka was quite occupied with providing me information, and he forwarded an email dated August 8, 2024, to his editors at the Daily Mail. In this email, he indicated that he had recently conversed with Miss Sloane, and that this conversation revealed the true reason behind the exclusion of Justin Baldoni. At the conclusion of the email, it states, "Sloane and I discussed Justin Baldoni multiple times, and the information she provided was utilized in several published articles. Screenshots of our discussions have surfaced in various legal complaints. In one instance, I explicitly mentioned that the backlash against Blake was organic and that Melissa Nathan did nothing wrong, as that is the truth. Over the years, she has consistently weaponized sensitive or fetishized information regarding anyone viewed as a threat to her clients." This is quite intriguing, isn't it? The email I have previously shown you essentially addresses the notion of why a man cannot direct a woman and why Justin assumed control, leading to widespread animosity towards him due to alleged abusive behavior and so forth. They may share this with Miss Sloane. However, Mr. Vizuka also sent me text messages on June 9th to his editor at the Daily Mail. In these messages, he stated, "I try to avoid looking at anything today, but naturally I had to. This is the issue I am facing. It is essentially this. I am being accused of perjury by Sloane, omitting the remainder of the declaration, and now I am receiving online death threats and inundated with hateful messages despite having done nothing wrong." Accused of perjury. However, he is only committing perjury if he is under oath. Indeed, Sloane has made it evident to the public that she never informed me that Blake SEC was sexually assaulted. She previously utilized this information to seek the dismissal of the case. I must clarify that I never communicated this to Brian either. It creates the impression that I have lied, and that this is perceived as Freeman's mistake, rather than mine. I have never disclosed to anyone that she made such a statement. Sloane has fabricated lies that are both outrageous and horrifying to me in these correspondences. We utilized this information to generate significant exclusives that were widely circulated and recognized globally. This evidence will undoubtedly astonish you. It contributed to the false narrative that initiated all the allegations against Baldoni. It truly began with us, and it will conclude with us. Once this evidence is presented, it will be abundantly clear that Sloane compelled me to sign this declaration to silence me and to prevent me from appearing on camera and testifying under oath regarding what she knows I possess against her. She aimed to avoid being deposed and believed that this alone would lead to her dismissal, thereby preventing Friedman from deposing me as well. He asserts that he possesses evidence that would astonish you because she assisted in creating a false narrative and defamed Bellin alongside Sloane, using these to generate exclusives for the Daily Mail. This again suggests that Blake had to undertake all these actions because it was her prerogative to take control of the movie. However, in the information that Leslie provided him, she clearly indicated that there were creative differences on set. As Blake has repeatedly stated, this isn't about creative differences. Yet, when Leslie conversed with Vizuka, she indeed referenced creative differences. The assertion that he excluded Blake from discussions regarding sex scenes is unfounded. Furthermore, the claim that he refrained from providing her with feedback on filming abuse scenes is also incorrect. It is evident that Blake and Colleen dedicated significant effort to this project. One cannot direct a film that is so intimately focused on a woman confronting an abusive partner without permitting the woman involved to contribute her perspective. All of this suggests underlying creative disagreements. He assumed control and insisted that they adhere to his vision. This collective frustration was felt by everyone, yet he also encountered issues with them on an individual basis. Certain segments of the film were revised. Such revisions were necessary. These changes were made under Colleen's guidance, who is entitled to do so as it is her narrative. The complications stemmed from his direction of a film that addresses the serious and critical issue of domestic abuse while excluding women's input from the creative process. This is the reason she articulated to Mr. Vizuka regarding Blake's decision to unfollow him. Thus, Blake unfollowed him because he denied her a voice and failed to acknowledge her creative vision, deeming the script inadequate, which compelled her to assist in its revision alongside her husband. This approach was necessitated by Colleen's insistence, which we know is not accurate. Additionally, Colleen was involved in the script's development with Christy Hall, and it is important to note that the script was authored by a woman, drawing from the original book. Moreover, they also attempted to portray Justin as deliberately disengaged from public relations, suggesting he preferred others to handle the workload. Blake and others involved in the film have been advocating this for several months, while Justin, on the other hand, has permitted them to proceed with minimal involvement. It is well known that Justin was not permitted to engage in any promotional activities under the control of Blake and Ryan, yet they orchestrated this to portray him as lazy. Ryan had no part in this matter. He is not associated with the film, but as Blake's husband, he will naturally defend her and take steps to ensure that any issues are addressed. We cannot utilize this. It suggests an attempt to get ahead of the narrative, indicating that there might be claims of Ryan's excessive involvement in the film. By this point, Blake had stated that he rewrote the script out of necessity, as he needed to salvage it. Thus, how does Leslie justify that she was perpetuating this narrative, deceiving Vasuka on August 8th, prior to Jed's hiring? Jed's employment commenced on August 9th, the same day that the article titled "The Disturbing Truth About What Happened on the Set of Vince with Us" was published by the Daily Mail, with James Sasuka credited as the author. He was also credited for the article discussing the film's need for a rewrite due to the script's inadequacies and the necessity for Ryan to intervene. In the complaint, Blake refutes the claims that Mr. Reynolds made those statements. Indeed, Miss Sloan informed the Daily Mail that, at that time, therefore all of this is being executed out of desperation, yet it provides Mr. Wayfair with an opportunity to reveal all of this. Thus, on one side, they achieve a gotcha moment, but Wayfair can counter with their own gotcha moment. The reality is that when a witness alters their narrative and when they convey one account to one individual and then different information to another, the court will consider that witness unreliable. If a jury were to confront Vasuka with his shifting stories, he would not be regarded as credible because a jury is instructed that if a witness deceives about one matter, their testimony regarding all matters can be disregarded. I am not asserting that James misrepresented what Leslie provided him because he forwarded this email to his editors. I am indicating that he is altering the narrative now because he is aligning with the perspective that serves his interests. To clarify, I was not the only individual who received these records. I communicated with someone in the mainstream media to whom he also forwarded all of this information. Therefore, he intended for this information to be public, pleading for others to disseminate it. So here you are, James. This is likely to backfire on you. The same applies to Leslie and Blake. Consequently, Blake asserts that the new evidence is indicative of a smear campaign. She conveyed this to the Daily Mail today in an article, stating that the unsealed evidence is confirmation that they conducted a smear campaign.
All right.
How does Blake justify what Leslie did on August 8th? If she possesses unclean hands, all they need to do is present this defense in court, indicating that they had to react to Blake and her team's actions and that they have the right to protect themselves. Therefore, I ask you, what are your opinions on this matter? Do you believe this will be the decisive evidence that concludes the case? Or is it merely going to be more absurdity? I suspect there will be much more absurdity. There is an abundance of nonsense. However, if James continues this way, I could remain here all day. I possess a great deal more that I could disclose. I invite you to share your opinions in the comments section below. Kindly ensure that you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not yet done so.
Thank
you very much for watching. Goodbye, dear friends.